Okay, Boulder, tonight I was at ZAO. We went to an event that was about the city council candidates. They were all giving their pitches. ZAO is a tech firm. It's here on 29th Street. It was a medium-sized room. It was crowded and hot. There were a lot of candidates there. Most of them are ill-equipped for the job and they don't stand a chance. But this was kind of a techie event, so they had screens up on the wall, and everyone was, they were tweeting. Well, probably the only people reading the tweets were the people that were in the room, about 100 people. But one thing that happens at tech events, there were a couple of young techies that were really obnoxious, and they were insulting everybody who was in the crowd. So anyone that they didn't agree with, they just insulted them. Most of the people there were, you know, middle-aged and older, you know, maybe 20% were kids, and they were the ones that were the most obnoxious. So here's the deal. When the tech crowd is seen for what they really are, which is a bunch of obnoxious, bratty kids, they're never going to get anything that they want in Boulder. Now, if you look at some of the videos that we have coming up, you'll see Lisa Morzel, some people from the chamber, and a few of the candidates. You can kind of get a feel. Hey, I'm Jann Scott with Boulder Channel 1.
Lisa Morzel, and I'm running for re-election to the Boulder City Council. It's a lot of controversies going on, but I think we've done a lot of really good things. I think we have a lot of work still to do, and I think, you know, we need to get the community talking with each other instead of past each other.
You're running again.
I am.
Do you think you'll win?
The people make that decision,
now,
don't they?
What about a Better Boulder and what's the other group? There's another group. What the hell is it? I don't even know.
There's a lot of groups. There's Better Boulder, Open Boulder.
They're sort of the same, right?
Boulder. There's a whole bunch of Livable Boulder.
There's Livable Boulder and Better Boulder. They seem to be fighting. They're the ones that put up the initiatives, right?
Livable Boulder put up the initiatives.
Where do you stand on all of that?
I can totally understand where the people were coming from, but I am not in favor of either of those initiatives because I don't think they get us to where the people who signed them want us to get to.
Because a lot of people are going to vote the way you think. Because a lot of people sort of follow you and follow Will Torr. They trust you.
I think Will Torr and myself are two very different people.
Are you guys like, you know?
No. No, I wouldn't say that. We still get along just fine. I think we have different ways in which we would like to include people's voices. And I think people's voices need to be heard. And I think they like to be participate in what the outcome of decisions are.
All right.
Hi, I'm John, President and CEO of the Boulder Chamber. I think, Jann, you were asking where we stood on propositions or these ballot issues 300 and 301.
Yep.
We are fundamentally, absolutely opposed to them. We think they are the most destructive and inscrutable initiatives that we've seen before the voting public in a long time. We're concerned that they will divide us as a community, pitting neighbor against neighbor and business against neighbor residents. We also are concerned about the costs of these initiatives. There's going to be endless lawsuits and endless city process to address them, and additional staff will be needed to figure out how do these things operate. And third, it'll just create what we believe is planning chaos for our community. We do better as a community when we work together, when we think collectively through how do we address our challenges. And if we allow these initiatives to go through, we're just going to be, again, dividing our community and not constructively working through our challenges.
So what needs to happen? What's the deal? What do you want to see happen?
I think the most constructive measure for us, and what some of the council candidates talked about tonight, is we should be moving toward this comprehensive planning conversation where we address a vision or identify a vision for our community's evolution. And as we address that vision, identify it collectively, then we put the policies in place to implement it.
John, there's a lot of concern about too much traffic, too much congestion, too many businesses building, not enough housing. Where do you stand on that, Hi?
there's a certain number of citizens who are concerned about the level of activity that we have, commercial activity we have in our community. They felt that this was the best approach to shut down our community, to stop the process of evolution. We don't think that's the appropriate way to go.
How has life changed for you since the Boulder show? I remember when you did the Boulder show, you were pretty much a freewheeling, crazy guy, and now how are you? Are you like...
I'm still pretty freewheeling there. I like to think that I still enjoy engaging with this community and reaching out on behalf of business interests, but also just the community at large. And so for me, that's what drives me, is what's best for the community at large. And I happen to represent business interests, but businesses in our economy are a key part of the equation of what makes this community.
John, do you see this as a hostile fight between the groups? Is Boulder coming apart on this, or is this just going to be a fight that we're going to have to fight out? Or is it not a fight at all?
It's a battle of visions for our community. And clearly for me, the proper vision is to keep this community as one Boulder, one that's not divided, and as opposed to these initiatives, which in my mind will pit our community against one another.
Will Tour says it's basically the same vision, just, some wrong or different approaches.
Yeah, I think these are the wrong approaches to addressing the challenges that any community faces around commercial activity, around traffic, around affordable housing. There are better solutions, and we need to move forward with those. What I think most appropriately for us to do is to start the comprehensive planning process and focus on that, developing that.
Hello, my name's Cindy Carlisle, and I'm running for the Boulder City Council. I got involved in this process when I was carrying the citizen petitions this summer, the citizen initiatives that will appear on the ballot. New development or development paying its own way, and the neighborhood's right to vote on land use legislation changes. I was surprised at the tremendous outpouring and of people's upset with the city and the way it's being run and what they feel is happening to them, rather than being able to actually have a voice in what does happen. And after talking to many people from many diverse parts of life, I thought, I'm going to run again. I've been there. I was on the city council in the 80s. We had a very effective, very hardworking, dedicated council. And I've also served on the CU Board of Regents, so I have a distinctive position in knowing more or less how to deal with the university.
So you want people to vote for you, right?
I absolutely want people to vote for me. I like to help this city define what it wants and help implement what it wants in terms of its vision for the future. Does it want to be dense? Does it want to be not dense?
Why is there such a battle between a better Boulder and a livable Boulder? I mean, these two issues, it's like, this is a real big battle going on, isn't it? Or is it?
Well, I think there's a real distinction between those who think that densification is the answer to the transportation problem, and those like me who think that there are other methods that we could do. And there are places where we can look, like the university, Stanford University implemented a transportation demand management program that was very successful in cutting down on single occupancy vehicles and cutting down on congestion in areas around that university. And anyone who's been there, Palo Alto.
A better Boulder says that if these initiatives pass, it's going to ruin Boulder. How do you answer that?
I don't think so. If development paid its own way, we would have some basis for funding things like our traffic congestion impacts, our affordable housing, our open space management. We need funding for all of these things, and new development ought to buy into our enriched infrastructure rather than being able to just take advantage of it.
How long have you lived in Boulder, and have you had a job or raised a family here, or what's?
I lived in Boulder. I came to Boulder in 1968 to complete my undergraduate degree and stayed on for graduate studies. I have a family, 2 grown children, and I am invested in this place, and I want to see it thrive and continue.
Cindy Carlisle running for City Council again. Thank you.
I'm a member of the Boulder City Council right now, and I'm running for re-election, hoping to get your vote for another 4 years. I've lived in Boulder for 30 years now and been involved in city politics for a long time. Started out as a neighborhood activist. And running for council because there are some really important community values that I want to see us achieve. One of them is about environmental stewardship, getting to cleaner, greener energy. Be a big deal for us. Love to see an 80% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2050. Want to make sure that we continue working on zero waste. I think that's really important for us. We just passed a really progressive commercial composting and recycling ordinance, and also just working for the even the bees. You know, I mean, this is Pollinator Appreciation Month, September, and trying to protect the bees from neonicotinoids and things like that. It's great. I'm also really interested in issues of social equity. And we recently helped folks in mobile home parks who couldn't sell their pre-1976 trailers. And so we leveled the playing field for those guys. And I think that was great. But in the bigger picture, I would definitely like to see us work on having teachers be able to work here, having nurses and firefighters work here. Part of that could be about our permanently affordable housing program, but I think a big piece too is making some changes in our zoning and our ordinances to allow the private sector to help with that.
Do you have a job? Do you work?
I'm doing council right now. I'm an attorney by training, but council is basically a full-time job that pays not very much.
You said you were not going to vote for the two initiatives. Can you tell me why and what you see is going on between Livable Boulder and a Better Boulder? It seems to be quite the battle.
Well, we've got so many boulders now. They also have wonderful Livable Boulder, Better Boulder, Plan Boulder, Open Boulder. But anyway, the initiatives that have come out of Livable Boulder, I appreciate the sentiment behind them, but I can't support them. And let me just talk about each one separately. The neighborhood right to vote. I worry that is the opposite of planning for us. I believe that planning for our community should be done at a more holistic level and a community-wide level. And giving a veto power to neighbors, I don't think is a way to get there. With regard to development pays its own way, I believe in the concept. It's actually in the comprehensive plan, but I worry about the implementation mechanism that's within this initiative, and I think that it could come out so high, the impact fees, that we might not see development that we really need and would be desirable for our community.
Tim Plass, running for re-election, Boulder City Council member. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Leonard May, and I'm running for City Council. I am currently a member of the Planning Board, so I'm pretty well versed in the issues and the mechanisms that make Boulder operate. I have worked extensively overseas in war zones and disaster relief zones doing community development, democracy development, and civil society development, and so I feel I bring a lot of sensitivities to community concerns and how to get those concerns heard by government.
Do you work? Do you have a job and things like that, or no?
I am an architect, and I am also, as I mentioned, an expert consultant on disaster relief and recovery issues.
Pretty exciting. So why should people vote for you for City Council?
I think they should vote for me because I bring some practical, non-dogmatic perspectives to the problems. I have a fairly high technical mastery of a lot of the issues that are topical in Boulder right now, like the economics, growth and development, housing affordability. I've worked extensively in all these fields. I've worked within city government, and I also understand the democratic process, having done a lot of democracy development, and understand how important it is to include the people in the decision making.
You said you're on some of the boards now. Did you say you're on planning board?
I'm on planning board currently. I was formerly on landmarks board, and then I've been on a number of other community organization boards like Empower Our Future. I was on their steering committee for the ballot campaign 2 years ago to fight Excel's initiative attempting to block our municipalization.
Okay, so now you said you're in favor of these two initiatives that are whatever they are. What are these initiatives?
The voter right to say in development pays its way.
What are they? What does that mean?
Well, the voter right to say is essentially a safeguard mechanism for changes to land use regulations or upzoning to make it simple in residential neighborhoods. And what it does is it enables residents in the neighborhood, if 10% of them sign a petition that they, or 10% of the voters in the neighborhood sign a petition that they don't agree with a land use regulation change that results in increases in development intensity, that they can have a vote within that neighborhood on that policy.
What's the other initiative?
The other initiative is Development Pays Its Way, which is it's something that's been in the Boulder County Comp Plan for about 40 years. It's not, and the comp plan itself is not actually in the city charter, so there's nothing that actually codifies that aspiration. And so development, in fact, does not pay its way. There's a host of impacts and costs that are imposed on the public, and this essentially codifies that and says it will pay its way.
Why is there this big fight going on about these two initiatives? I mean, you've got Better Boulder, I mean, there's this whole group of people now. There's like this war going on over this thing. What is it?
Well, I think the development pays its way. It's a natural response because essentially the public has been subsidizing growth and development. And so those who earn their profits from growth and development, which in itself is not a bad thing, they don't want to lose that subsidy. And I suppose if I were in their situation, I would feel the same way. The neighborhood right to vote is somewhat related to it because it was a response to a concern about development pressures on neighborhoods, and neighborhoods wanting some protection against another layer of protection and checks and balances against the influence that the development industry has on city policymakers.
Leonard May, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Hey Boulder, today I am at the Boulder Public Library with a planned Boulder meeting. This is Livable Boulder and Better Boulder going at it. There's an initiative up that'll be up in November. Everybody gets to vote on it, and we shall see what happens then. But my sense is that Boulder does not want to see more skyscrapers or the developers take over politics in the city. That seems to be it. And most of the people in there are Livable Boulder people. The young people did not show up for this event. Although Becky Boone was here for like 30 seconds. I'm Jen Scott. Boulder Channel 1.
Okay, I'm Alan Feinberg. I'm a former Boulder City Council person, and I am a member of Livable Boulder. I started on the Development Pays Its Costs initiative, and then got involved with a lot of people who were very concerned about neighborhood issues, and so that ended up being another initiative that we thought was really important for the future Boulder.
What's the difference between Livable Boulder and One Boulder and a Better Boulder?
Well, I think they're all people who are concerned about where Boulder is going, what the future of Boulder is, because we're seeing a lot of changes happening really quickly, and people are uncomfortable with that and feel that they don't have control over what's happening as citizens and that the government is not responsive. And so each in its own way is trying to organize people to be able to impact that and exert some control. Now, what their different outlooks might be, I think that Better Boulder and One Boulder, or Open Boulder, I'm sorry, it's Open Boulder, are more aligned with the business interests in Boulder. And the Livable Boulder folks are just citizens. It's not really a group who are promoting these initiatives. They come from neighborhoods and they come from just citizens in the city of Boulder.
And so you're saying you're not actually a group like a Better Boulder, just an initiative. So this is a ballot initiative. It's going to take place in November. 2
ballot initiatives for voting on in November. I've no doubt that some of the people who collected signatures to put this on the ballot have become activists after having talked to a lot of people about their concerns, and they may go on and be involved in the community issues along the way. But as an organization, Livable Boulder did not intend to be a membership organization or create a city organization.
What about height limitations? People are very worried about that they'll change height limitations. There's a big concern about that.
Well, the height limitations are in the city charter. It was an initiative just like this one that was put on the ballot by the citizens when there was development proposals for buildings that were really, really tall in respect to Boulder's buildings. So it's in the charter. It can't be changed without a vote of the people. Anybody who wants to change it is going to have to create some kind of an initiative like this, or the council will have to put it in front of people to vote on. Citizens will be able to vote their preference on the height ordinance.
Why is One Boulder and a Better Boulder so hostile toward, what's the name of your group again? I can't remember.
Well, Livable Boulder is the group that's doing the initiatives. Well, I'm not sure, because I've never heard their position explained, and if we had room to get into this debate here, I suppose maybe we'd hear more about it, but I usually say follow the money. And when you're asking to control the development interests in Boulder, you're usually impacting the ability to make a very significant profit. So I'm imagining that that's part of why there's a lot of hostility.
Alan Feinberg, thanks very much.
Hi, my name is Will Tour. I've lived in Boulder for 35 years, including 15 years as a local elected official. Spent 6 years as mayor of Boulder, 8 years as Boulder County Commissioner, and a long-time environmental activist. I've won the Plan Boulder Award and the Sierra Club Indian Peaks Group Award for my local environmental activism. I am also right now one of the co-chairs of Better Boulder and a member of One Boulder, the campaign committee that has come together to oppose the two ballot issues that we think will throw chaos into the planning process in Boulder, make it very hard to achieve our environmental and climate goals, and make it almost impossible to achieve affordable housing in the city of Boulder.
Well, a lot of people are concerned about height limitations, overpopulation, the business interests taking over.
You know, our height limit is built into the city charter. You can't go over 55 feet. No one is trying to change that. Height limitations, they're here and they're going to stay. But within those height limitations, there's an awful lot of opportunity for us to improve our community in a variety of ways. If you think, for instance, about what's happening in the vicinity of 30th and Pearl right now, we have a new transit station going in. We have bus rapid transit coming into the community. We have affordable housing being built that's wrapping that transit station. We have jobs that are coming into the community. We don't need to bust the height limits to do that. There's plenty of opportunity to do that within the existing height limit.
A lot of people respect you, and it seems like the group with a Livable Boulder and Better Boulder seem like the same kind of people, except there's a lot of tech people involved. So how do you come down there? How is Will Tour?
Yeah.
People are having a hard time getting their arms wrapped around this.
So I do think that part of the problem with these initiatives is they divide the community, and they divide many of us who have similar values. Mm-hmm. So folks who have been long-time environmental and community activists, there are some folks who I think look at Boulder and they think that Boulder was at its peak 35 or 40 years ago and it's been going downhill ever since. Mm-hmm. Personally, I think that in most ways, except that it's gotten more expensive, Boulder's been getting better over time. I like the fact that I live in a community now that owns 45,000 acres of open space and has a great network of bike paths and has an EcoPass program and a great transit system and has a lot of opportunities for people to have jobs. When I first moved here, everybody I knew had to commute to Denver to work because there were no jobs here. I think that a lot of the divide is people who think that we can make the community better versus folks who think that we peaked years ago and are on our way downhill. The other divide that I really see is a generational divide. Almost all of my friends who are in the environmental community, who are community activists, who are younger, they're all on the Better Boulder side of this. And I think there's very much a generational divide.
Will Tour, thanks very much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks, Jann.